I just want to tell you that looking to Valentine's Day, Gallup recently did a poll, and they did actually a few different things where they were interviewing the different sexes. And I just thought this one question was particularly interesting. They asked the women, they just wanted to ask the women, you know, what they thought about their asses. Yes, you heard that correctly. Their asses. So they wanted to know what did they think? So 30% of the women thought their asses were too big. 15% thought their asses were too small. 10% thought they were too skinny. And the remaining 60% said they don't care, they love them anyway. Now I know I told that one before, but it's just always been one of my favorites. It's just kind of fun. So, we're going to start tonight, and I'm going to have Ben Hansel come up. So we all agree that the younger generation is the future. And we're taking a greater interest in these groups. Ben is with the College Republicans. He serves as vice chairman for the Michigan Foundation of College Republicans and is president of Turning Point USA at Wayne State University. And I like to have him here because he can give us a brief update on their efforts to identify, educate, train, and organize students to promote the principles of freedom, free market, and limited government. So with that, I would like to welcome Ben to the stage.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you for that warm introduction. Some of my favorite groups to speak with, so thank you again for having me back this month, just for this month's update of what's happening in the future. As I said last time I was here last month, over the past year, our chapters have increased by 900% in members, and we've been able to retain them through this semester. All of our chapters are back, they're active, the semester started, we're hosting regular meetings, and yep, he knows. There you go. Yeah. That goes for both Turning Point and College Republicans. And how we've decided to structure it across the state is Turning Point is a 501c3, and they have been just absolutely instrumental in providing us with the resources and with a proper understanding of the dynamics, in that Turning Point is more so focused on educating with those free market principles, and with College Republicans, our whole entire mission is to get the college-aged youth that are politically active and interested involved in the party. So you should be seeing a lot more faces, even younger than mine, at the upcoming convention in March. But with that being said, our next major event, thank you for those of you who came out to our Christmas Gala. That was a big hit, big success. Our next big event is next month, at the end of March. We haven't finalized the date yet, so I'll be back next month providing that. But we've gotten one of the largest halls at the University of Michigan reserved for us, and we're going to be holding the one big, beautiful gubernatorial forum in tandem with the support of Brighter Michigan PAC. So thank you to Brighter Michigan. I'll have more details as they become available next month, but it seems like most of the candidates are very interested, and we will have quite a space to do so. A capacity of to fit 3,000 people. Wow. So I better see each and every one of you there.
You don't have a date?
Not the same weekend as the convention, I assume.
No.
Thank you.
Correct. No. But what is the same week as the convention is CPAC. And so our other development, our other piece of news for everybody is that the Michigan College Republicans, we are a localized statewide chapter of the College Republicans of America, the CRA. And the CRA and CPAC, and you heard it here first. I don't even know if I'm supposed to share it yet, but I'm going to anyway. We're in the basement. We have been made the official collegiate Republican group to partner with CPAC. And with that, we are aiming to send between 300 and 500 of our 1,500 students to Dallas at the end of March to attend CPAC. That's all the good news I have to share. But we've been busy. So, good job.
I have a question. So with all of these students that possibly could be going to CPAC, like how is that funded?
So that's what we're, great question. So that's what we are actually currently fundraising for. There will be a WinRed link up soon to help us with funding that, but we're also getting some help from the national, the national organization, CRA. They're doing some major efforts in trying to get us out, but for that effort, we're trying to raise between $30,000 and $50,000 to cover airfare and lodging for our students. So we could really take all the help we can get.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let me know when that link is available then. Okay? Great. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Maya.
So, we'll be reaching out to you soon about an effort to help win the 15th Senate District in Michigan. We're gearing up. It is very important that we win back our state Senate. So we'll be reaching out to you with information about that very soon. I think they're going to vote on the SAVE Act this Friday. So if you haven't made that phone call to John Thune's office, I'm going to encourage you to call there. I know the president, I think, came out today and just said it's a must. We have to pass the SAVE Act. So if you haven't made that phone call, please do that. The more pressure, the better. Okay, so later this month, February 26th, we have our county conventions coming up. And at the county convention, we'll be voting on delegates and alternates to attend the March 28th state convention. And here's the exciting part. At that convention, we'll actually be choosing the candidates, and only precinct delegates do this. You'll be choosing the candidates that are running for the positions of Attorney General and Secretary of State. Now, we're also going to be electing Michigan Board of Education candidates, Supreme Court, candidate for U of M Regents, State Board of Governors, and Michigan State Board of Education. Some of those, Deb, where are you?
Right here, sitting here.
I'm not sure if all of those are contested races. Are they?
Not the schools, no.
Not the what's?
Not the schools. Board
Not
of
the
Education
schools?
or the Regent positions are
all
not
right.
contested.
Okay. So some of them, it's the contested races that we're interested in. There's lots of important decisions that you as precinct delegates will have. So we have some candidates here tonight. We're gonna. I just want to let you guys know, not all of them from one race could make it tonight, so I had to split them up. So we have a Secretary of State candidate tonight, and we have an Attorney General candidate tonight. In March, we'll have the other people that are running for those positions. We do have Monica Yatuma here. She's not speaking tonight. I just want you to know, it's not like I iced her out. She'll be one of the candidates that will be speaking in March. Iced, yeah. Yeah. So now, Lake Erie Tea Party and Michigan Conservative Coalition, we just want to expose you to the candidates. It's really, your precinct delegates. So it's your duty to talk to these people, listen to these people, and decide who you support. It's way too easy if, you know, like, we have not, like, probably all of you have people call you and ask, who are you going to vote for? It's basically because they don't want to put in the work to find out who they should vote for. And I'm fine with that, because some of these people just, they're not a precinct delegate, and they'll vote for whoever I tell them to vote for in a primary or general election. But at a convention, you're an elected precinct delegate, and you accepted that responsibility, and you should accept the responsibility to do the work to find out which candidate not only just aligns with your personal values, because you represent a whole precinct of people. So you really should take that into consideration, because in the bigger picture, this is how we're going to win elections. So I always try to imagine, like, who would Trump pick? Because I think more and more the president is looking at who reflects his values, and also who has the funding to actually win these races. And I always think of Thay Ronex, and he's a dear friend. And Thay Ronex at one point, I mean, it's like, I was 3 terms vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party, and he would bust my chops every time I would get on his show. And it was like, finally, it seems that he had an epiphany, because I was listening to his show this one time, and he's like, you know what, our backs are up against the wall, and we have to look for electable candidates, not those candidates that, that's my dream candidate if they could ever get elected. So I think finally Thay Ronex got it. And it's like, it's unfortunate, I agree, but at this point, these are all things that we have to consider. This is my opinion, of course. So with that, I want to bring up the first candidate who's going to speak tonight is Anthony Forlini. And Anthony is running for Secretary of State. He's one of the candidates that we will be voting on at the state convention. So with that, Anthony, you want to come up?
We found all those non-citizens that were in the jury pool, 239, and we boiled it down to about 14 that were on the actual voter list. Not all of them voted, a couple of them did. She says, that's no big deal. I was being reckless and irresponsible for finding these things. And at first, when I first got, I says, did we miss something? My God, she did a press conference and said, he's being reckless and irresponsible. And I'm thinking, then you look at her press release, and there was 12 of them that were still in question. And I'm thinking, how can I be irresponsible? Oh, one of them was a U.S. citizen. Okay. But what about the one that voted? What about those that were on the voting rolls? It's crazy that we're even having this conversation. It's crazy that really, when you think about it, the Secretary of State's above all the clerks. I'm the clerk of Macomb County. And I should be turning to the Secretary of State as a partner, right? She's a partner in this. We're supposed to be finding problems. Instead, she's defending a system that is fraudulent, corrupt. You can say a lot of things, but it's broken. Let's just not even go there. Let's just say it's broken. I think we can all agree in various circles that it's broken. And so we've done a lot of things in Macomb County, and I'll tell you why. You know what? You know why she doesn't know the difference? She was never a clerk. She didn't have any election experience. She's never done these things. We're in the trenches trying to figure these things out, and yet we get no support from Lansing. It's a terrible situation we're in. As a county clerk for the last 5 years, I've seen very little support coming down to us. We're on our own, and that's what happens when you let it be the Wild West out there. Nobody really knows what they're doing, or doesn't know enough to ask enough questions. Fortunately, I've got a great team in Macomb County, and we've done a lot of things over the last 5 years to improve election security. And when you think about this package, I can drop on day one. we shut off all the modems. We're the first, Macomb County was the first to shut off the modems. These modems were embedded in these tabulators, and not only did we shut it off, somebody asked me a question, just shut them off, or did you remove them? Well, we first shut them off, and then we removed them. So it was like one election, then a couple months later, we took them out. That was important, because they were transmitting, right? Now, they weren't transmitting, we had a forensic audit, and we saw it, and we didn't have anything transmitting in the time before I was there. But I didn't want to take that chance, so we removed them. The other thing we did was hash validations. What does that mean? Well, we're just going to make sure that there's no outside interference coming into, foreign or domestic, into our machines, changing things. When that happens, we know what to do, and we did. And in Macomb County, we had 2 clerks actually change tabulator settings. We made them redo 50,000 ballots in an election. Every vote matters, every vote counts. And was it a little uncomfortable to do that? Sure it was. But you got to stand up for what's right, and you got to stand up for every single ballot. So, and it wasn't nefarious, it wasn't anything that they did that was for ill intent. We just wanted to go a little faster. Well, you can't do that, right? The other thing we talked about, somebody out here, training people, getting people that know what they're doing in every single polling location, making sure there's one Democrat at least and one Republican. So I went out and recruited. I spent close to a year out there recruiting election workers. I'd go to Rotary meetings, I'd go to Kiwanis clubs, I'd go to church groups, I'd go wherever I can, the schools, and we recruited over 700 people, and we educated them up. I called it like a college program for election workers. And the day before the election, we had one clerk ask for 35 workers. Can you imagine what her election would have looked like without those people? This is looking ahead, trying to see that. So this is something, all these things I'm talking about are things we need to do at the state level to make our elections better. We had, we did watermark paper. This is, those ballots are very precious, right? Like currency, I think. So we watermarked all our paper. This is something that should be statewide. Day one, we can do this. These are the few things I'm talking about. Just you don't even, I don't even have to think about it. We just do it. So we've already done it. Removing dead people off the voting rolls. Well, this seems so fundamental. It is so easy to be put on election day, right? We can put people on election day, but we can't take them off. But we can't, thank you. We can't take, what are you talking about? What's the harm if we took off a 125-year-old person? What's the chances that they're going to come back? So these are things I think that we just need to do, clean them up. And you know what? We're going to stumble on it. The news will make a big deal out about that one that we took off that we shouldn't have. You know what? We got to deal with it. We got to make it clean.
So show up with their ID.
So show up with an ID. Oh, what a novel concept. So anyhow, you got a quick question?
Does Michigan participate in interstate cross-check?
Are you talking about Eric?
I'm talking about what they did with, in what Brian Kemp can do in Georgia, because in 3 elections, he knocked 1 million voters off the election.
Well, I'll tell you what we do need. We need a national database. Trump had talked about this. Our president talked about doing a national database so we can track these things. And you know what? We have more coming, by the way, non-citizens out of Macomb. We have more coming. But now we have special agents from the federal government that we're working with. Hey, how about this guy?
Nice.
Is this guy, right? Is this guy on the list? I don't want to get in trouble with Jocelyn. Is this person on the list? Why couldn't the Secretary of State do that for us? By the way, our office is going to now be a part of the SAVE database. We're applying right now so that we can start looking at these things ourselves. Why wouldn't every clerk do it?
Exactly.
Right? I just don't, we don't know about it, and maybe they don't want us to know about it. I had to look into it myself. So these are all things that have to happen. Now, you know what? A little bit of a surprise. Elections aren't the only thing that the Secretary of State does. And if you look in the Constitution, it's one of the biggest positions at the state. It's a monster. And, the Office of the Great Seal, we are getting more fraud through notaries than we've ever seen. It's because of technology. We can lift a signature off and put it on another document. And what do we know? Our deed office, Wayne County's had over 400 people that they've prosecuted for defraud. That's, some of them have had hundreds. So, that's important. What kind of time do I have?
2 more?
2 more.
Want to take some questions?
I'll take a few questions too, yeah. So the great, obviously the Great Seal needs a, who's notarizing the notary? And then service. She just came out with a press release today bragging that 90% of our appointments are under 20 minutes. Under 20 minutes, that's something to brag about. Oh, 90%, what about that 9% that she's not including? Does that bring her average to an hour? I don't know. So I think that these are things that, I'll tell you, in our office in Macomb County, we had similar numbers to that, maybe a little worse. Since I've been in office, we've changed that. The whole system changed. Under 4 minutes before you're served, and that's without appointments. With appointments or without appointments. I think that, we need to add that. But then, how about the once you're at the counter? We figured out how to get that number under 9 minutes. Under 10 minutes, so it's around 9 minutes. So, that's what it's going to take to make the Secretary of State's office better. There's a lot of great ideas, and a lot of the other candidates have great ideas, but these are things that we can do day one, because guess what, folks? We don't take office till January 1st, 2027. We can't go in here with training wheels and figure it out. We got to start, because 2028 is already there. It's already there. We can't fool around. So if we take the things that we've already done, there's a bunch of other things too I didn't mention. We take those and apply them immediately, get to work, we can start figuring out everything else, get the service up and everything else. So, how about a few questions? Go ahead.
What's the chances of a repeat of 2020 where Mark Zuckerberg gave us $11 million in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, I can't answer that. What's the chances of Mark Zuckerberg giving money? I can't answer that. I don't see it happening.
Is there anything legally that anyone can stop him from doing so, or anyone else?
I don't know if anyone wants to touch the money. I don't know that anyone out there wants to touch it. I mean, even Macomb County, they said yes before I was there, and then they said no. So I think it's like, I don't see it. I think they all learn their lesson, maybe. Hopefully.
I'm just curious.
Hopefully. Gotta be loud and proud. You gotta make sure people know you don't want that.
Yeah.
You won an award, didn't you?
So, yeah, well, thank you. So, if you just Google Macomb County Clerk's Office, or not Google, look in YouTube it, you can see the joke that Macomb County was for years. It was horrible, and that's the reason I ran, is let's get in there, let's fix it. We went from that to this past year, we won 2 national awards. We're the only one in the state of Michigan to win 1 award, and we're the only one in the country to have won 2. Now, you think, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, there's 28 awards given, 5,000 municipalities were eligible, and we won 2 of them, which was, I'm very proud of my whole staff and how we just turned that around, and they were a big part of it. You have to have a team, right? And the team isn't much different than when I came in there. It's just a little bit of a different attitude. And as a result, we won these 2 awards, and at first I was a little skeptical, because prior to me being in there, they were buying awards. That's what counties, that's what they do, they buy awards. $50, you get an award. I took them all down, they had a whole wall full of them, take them all down. We pay for all these, are you kidding me? So.
I was just wondering about adjudication, if you had any ideas on that.
I don't, because that's more of a complicated question. But I think that,
Just in 2020, they were taking out, if you wrote in anybody that wasn't on the official list, even though you had the choice of voting for Biden and you chose not to and write it in, they switched it back to Biden.
Vote flipping?
you're talking about in a board of canvas?
If you wrote in the party, they basically deleted the absentee vote, the write-in vote, and then switched it to whatever party you'd written at the top. So in that case, you had the option to vote for Biden, you chose not to, you wrote in something that wasn't legitimate, and they switched it back to Biden. They did that all day.
So that's part of why we made our board of canvassers, made our 2 clerks that changed the tabulator settings, changed it, because those that were written in, those, if they were legit, those were legit write-ins. You can vote for a party, Democrat and vote for Trump. And Trump would get the vote. We got a canvasser back there, Wayne County, famous.
Working through the campus, and also before that, being able to work elections, I was very concerned about the affidavits that people sign. So after 2022, voters are allowed to come in, they don't have ID, they sign an affidavit that says, I am who I say I am. So as an inspector, I was asking what happens with that. I was told at that point, it goes to the county. They deal with it. Now, I'm at the county, just after that election, and they go, we don't take care of that. That is done by the clerk. So I felt very good about the clerk with only 4 precincts, and I was very confident that she was going back and looking at those affidavits. But my understanding is you really don't have to do that, because the only thing that happens with them is twice a year, is it? They go to Lansing. Can you please confirm what that process is? And then I have a number 2.
I cannot confirm that because we don't, it's a local clerk. We don't see that.
You don't do affidavits if somebody doesn't have an ID?
I don't believe we do it in our office. I don't know if the Board of Canvassers does it.
No, we don't. The clerk is
I think it's local.
local clerk
It's
is
local.
responsible to do that.
Yes.
But their only responsibility is, in theory, to do it, but Lansing does not check it. They only have to report the number of affidavits they get.
Right. The whole process, since we've changed the laws the last 2 cycles, was it 18, 2022? It's created so many holes that nobody thought it, maybe it was good intention. Well, let's do this, let's do that, let's make it easier, right? Without thinking of the consequences or the holes that came in between. So I really believe the Republican Party should take a look at those holes and patch them up with another ballot initiative, because all those things, I think most Michiganders believe should be sealed up.
They should be given provisional ballots, and that would solve the problem.
That's where the training comes in.
It's a lot of training. You know what? You said it, training. The local people have no clue what to do.
No, they don't, they're overwhelmed.
You've seen it.
Because of all the changes
Yep.
this machine has introduced.
Yep.
So
And the
now
state
that
doesn't
brings
help.
me to the citizen issue as well. If somebody is challenged based on their citizenship, that challenge cannot stand unless they can actually validate it in the precinct or at that voting location. Is that right?
That's right.
So when I see it in the poll book that this voter has been challenged based on citizenship, and yet they are given a ballot, my question was, who checks and validates? Like, if this person has been challenged accurately that is not a citizen, and yet they get to vote, who does something with that? And I was told, unless somebody takes it legally, nothing happens.
And I think it happens so infrequently that you're going to find that situation, nobody knows what to do with it.
And you can't find something
And-
you're not looking for. And our Secretary of State doesn't want us to look for it.
So,
When she says there's very limited citizens, non-citizens voting, how would you know if you're not looking for it?
right, the only reason we found as many as we have is because we happen to look for it. Nobody was, because how do you even prove that? How do you prove that? How do you go about it? If it wasn't for the jury pool that we had, cross-checking it against the voting rolls, we would never know. Those people never should be on the jury pool. Listen, there's another big problem with this. How many of these people, because they just self-reported to us, they say, oh, I'm a non-citizen. Okay, what about those that are too embarrassed to say? And they go ahead and serve on a jury. Now we're being judged by non-Americans. Americans being judged by non-Americans. If I was a defense attorney, I'd go back and take a look at my old cases that I lost. And I don't want to encourage it, but, so.
I think if she wants to continue, can we just have that private conversation?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, I appreciate it. By the way, I got a fundraiser happening over here, Livonia Cultural Center next week. Somebody told me the date, I forgot the date. Next week,
February 20th?
February 20th? 19th is it.
Oh.
I meant to bring it up and I forgot to bring it up. Want to see if anyone would like to invite, let me know.
Okay, now we're gonna have a candidate running for Attorney General, and that would be Doug Lloyd.
Trial attorney, so I'm used to moving in front of people all the time. Is this a good spot? All right, I will stay there. You know, when Tony always brings up that point about the juries, I'll tell you, just as a guy that does jury trials all the time, that scares the living daylights out of me, because all I see is appeals. And that's what's going to happen. If the defendants hear about this, everybody's going to complain that they somehow didn't get a jury of their peers, and I can only see the work that your local prosecutors are going to have to deal with. That just blows my mind. Let me tell you a little bit about me. Well, first off, I'll tell you really a little bit about me. A lot of you raised your hands last night that you got to watch the Super Bowl. You got to choose, which version of your halftime show you wanted to watch. My family chose the American side. I only got to hear about it because I actually was at a murder scene last night. I spent the day actually doing search warrants and then going to the murder scene itself. That's how I spend my day, so you understand what we're actually talking about me. For me, I've been an attorney for 34 years, spent those first 4 years as a defense attorney, had the ability to actually do a lot of good work, do a lot of real estate law, a lot of contract law, did the divorces, did the defense work. 1996, I was blessed to, know a prosecutor in Jackson County at that time who said, I see something about you, Doug. I see something that says you should come to our side of the world and you should be over there, and he was right. I found out that standing up and saying to people that I'm here in the name of the people of the state of Michigan, to actually speak for the victims and the voiceless was something I could really understand and really relate to. So for the last 30 years, I've actually been a prosecutor. 2000, I had the opportunity to go over to Eaton County. Since 2013, I've been the elected prosecutor in Eaton County. That's still my day job. I've won 4 elections there as a Republican in a county that doesn't always lean our way. For me, I've actually done the work. I've charged the cases, I've gone to court, I've done the jury trials. I've tried drug dealers, rapists, murderers, and even corrupt politicians. And for my office, I always claim it's one of the finest offices in the state. And we lead that office on principles, not politics. See, people often ask me, well, Doug, why'd you get into this race? Now, it's not for the money. I'm going to tell you, I'm comfortable where I'm at in my county job, and I'm comfortable that my constituents are happy enough with me that I'll never lose. But I also had the opportunity to be at the ground level. I've got to see what's happened at our Attorney General's office. Words that they say and the actions that they do are something that the Attorney General should have never done. So I looked around, and I'm the last candidate to actually get in on either side. I did my due diligence. I saw what was on the Democrat side that was coming in. We're close here. It's an Oakland County prosecutor and a Washtenaw County prosecutor are your leading candidates. I've had to sit with them publicly and privately. I know what they think. For me, I knew that stepping into this job was something not about wanting it, but about needing to do it. We're broken and it needs to be fixed. See, we've been to 68 counties, and I'll give a shout out. The guy in the back in the blue jacket is my son. I am blessed. He actually travels with me everywhere. He's an on-the-ground campaign guy, and we've been to 68 counties so far, and when we go there, we're constantly asked by people, why is it that we're constantly hearing from our politicians about partisan politics? We're worried about crime. I talk to businesses and they're going, we're getting killed by regulations. But no one cares that we're just trying to survive. We're trying to thrive. See, I look around and I go, the Attorney General seems to forget that their job is to enforce the laws, not rewrite them. And that's exactly what she's been doing for these last 8 years. See, I was the elected prosecutor during COVID. You know, I actually had to deal with government overreach. I looked at the governor, I looked at the attorney general, I said, I am not your private police force. I refused to go after small businesses in my counties because I knew they were just trying to survive. When we talk about reform, see, reform is something that can be done easily. I actually helped create the economic crime unit in my county, you know, and in my county, we've actually returned $10 million to area businesses. I've helped strengthen our specialty courts, and I was actually one of the first counties to bring in a canine victim advocate, a black lab named Reagan. Yeah. Sole job was to work with children. He didn't care about anything else except making sure that that child that had to come into my courthouse and was there because they had been raped or abused, and then had to speak to somebody like me, that they were protected. When they had to take the stand and tell a judge or a jury, he was sitting right there with them. See, when we think about those things, whether it be overreach or reform, you know, that's the reason I have so many endorsements. See, I've been endorsed by Steve and Dave Coleman. They're attorneys. You may not know their names because you're going to know with cases. They represented one of the electors, and they actually were the fighters back in 2020. If you remember, they represented the barber from Shiawassee who got busted for just trying to keep his place open. They represented the lady with the pizza shop down in Holland, right? They understood what liberty was about. And they understood, because they knew me, that I was the same guy who was fighting for liberty for them as well. It's also why I've been endorsed by over 60 prosecutors, over 30 sheriffs, retired judges, legislators. Because they understand that you can't just talk about law and order, you actually have to have lived it. I've also been the one that they've called to actually come in and talk to the legislature, to testify. See, during these last 8 years, there was lots of bad criminal justice reform, lots of bad laws that were created. And when they'd ask the Attorney General to come in to actually testify about it, she'd refuse. So the House Judiciary chairs would call me in. I've testified against bad law. I've testified against good law. I've helped the legislature actually create good law in a bipartisan fashion. Worked with a Democrat, worked with a Republican, got the governor to sign it, all to make sure that we keep violent offenders behind bars. See, that's why I've been endorsed by former senators, former House Judiciary chairs, our current House Judiciary chair, current couple new Kevin Daly from up in the Lapeer area, Sam Bellino from the Monroe area. They're all getting on board because they understand they haven't seen an attorney general in years on the floor. And if we want good conservative law, it means that the attorney general is going to actually have to be able to step out and do it. See, a lot of people talk about, well, you know what, there's 32 departments. There sure is. Well, there's a lot of civil law. There is. But my question always is, you know, if you're going to say criminal law is smaller than civil law, why is that? How many times has Jocelyn Benson actually given a darn that she's been sued by the federal government? But I bet if Pam Bondi dropped a federal indictment on her, a criminal charge, she might actually care. It's the world I live in. People actually care when you charge a person with a criminal case. And there's a lot of it out there that, while it could have been civil, it can go criminal just as well. So for me, because I want to give you a chance to ask a few questions, I'm going to give you my expectations, because there are expectations for me, there are expectations you should have for me. First off is I am going to defend your God-given constitutional rights. See, every 4 years since I become a prosecutor, whether it be an assistant or the elected, I swear to the state and the federal Constitution. You better understand what that means. You better understand that that means not only do you protect the rights of victims, the voiceless, you protect the defendants as well. You protect all 10 million citizens. If we're going to actually bring in a criminal or a civil case, those words like political activism, political lawfare, you didn't give me a 2-minute warning like you did for me.
I know.
I
gave him a 2-minute warning, it turned into a 10-minute warning.
Yeah. So you cut me off?
Yeah.
All right, well, I got 2 more things and I'll be done. If we're going to bring a criminal or civil case, political activism, political lawfare, they die. You do it on the Constitution and the law only. We're going to work with the legislature. They're dying to have somebody that will actually be there and stand up with them. There's so many laws that they have sitting there right now, laws that you all know about and care about. They just don't have that additional voice to actually get it done. And finally, the most important thing for me, when we stand up, it is for the people of the state of Michigan. All 10 million of them. We think of them first and always. So if you're looking for a fighter, somebody that you can support, somebody who understands ground level, who has that leadership to run that office, then I'd ask for your support, because I got into this race for one and only one reason. System's broken, we can fix it. Together, if we work together, we can bring Michigan back. Thank you. All right, there's only one, so whoever puts their hand up first. Or no? There we go.
If our current AG has a problem with conflict of interest, how would you deal with that, especially in this current situation where she has a close personal friend who is a guardian for someone?
Oh, yeah.
That is a perfect question, and I can tell you why. Is that at the county level, as the elected prosecutor, if I have a conflict, then if anyone else in my office has a conflict, I can wall them off. But if I have a conflict, then that case has to go to another county. I have to have a special prosecutor. I've got that problem right now, that somebody that I know very well was stopped for drunk driving. I'm going to have to conflict myself out. Now, the Attorney General is the only office that has the ability to create walls. Only one in the state. No other county can do it, only at the state level. So if the Attorney General had a conflict, she or he would wall themselves off, meaning they have no involvement with the case. But they would send their subordinates, the Assistant Attorney Generals, out to do the job. So in that case that you talk about, it's sad that our friend, my friend, Chris Becker in Kent County is now prosecuting that case because she didn't do her job. All she had to do was just wall herself off and tell her criminal unit to go prosecute it, and it could have been done. They're the only one department that has it. They shouldn't have a conflict of interest.
All right, good job.
Thank you so much. Okay, so our next speaker is a board-certified internal medicine physician. But across Michigan, he's just known for his powerful, unfiltered voice online. Through his Facebook page, Dr. Sam Fawaz reaches more than 35,000 followers. And if you've ever seen his Facebook page, it's really pretty amazing because he'll make a post and then like 300 to 500 people will comment. It's crazy. Sam spent over a decade speaking plainly about political issues, shaping our country, and always through the prism of an independent. Over time, though, I think that it seems Sam reached a sobering conclusion that while the Republican Party has flaws, today's Democrat Party has been overtaken by openly anti-American ideology, one that rejects our history, mocks our values, and shows contempt for the nation that's made freedom possible. That's a line that Sam refuses to cross. He believes America does not need more excuses or empty rhetoric. So joining us tonight to share his journey from an independent to a Republican and explain why, despite all its imperfections, the Republican Party now stands as the last real chance to save America is Dr. Sam Fawaz.
First and foremost, I think this is my third time speaking in front of this group. The first time I spoke was during COVID, if I recall. Second time is after my wife dragged me back to Michigan kicking and screaming from Florida. And this is the third time, so I'm honored to be here. Honestly, I don't just say that word lightly. Who knew that going on Facebook and putting my opinion out there would do this, as much as I dislike Facebook and the censorship, but I guess it exposed me to a lot of wonderful human beings over the last few years. It's opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was unaware of, and it's done a lot of good. So in that regards, I'm happy that I'm on Facebook, so as long as Facebook doesn't boot me one day. When Marianne asked me to speak today about my journey, I figured, there's really not much I'm going to say that most of you don't already know. There's a lot of very informed and educated and intelligent individuals in this room, and I'm just curious, as I'm learning about the political process over the last 4 or 5 years, because I wasn't really into politics prior to that, how many of you are delegates here? Wow, okay. So theoretically speaking, if I give you free healthcare, can I tell you who to vote for? Is that allowed? Asking for a friend. So in all seriousness, I commend everybody that puts their name out there and runs for public office, because it takes a lot of courage nowadays in the environment that we operate in. I've been in the United States since 16. I immigrated from Lebanon. Some of you have heard the story, some of you have read it. I came from a beautiful country, looks exactly like California, mountains and beaches, it's just, the topography is gorgeous, but run into the ground by very misguided and corrupt politicians, and it's basically turned into a two-class nation, the very wealthy and the elites, and the poor, and there's nobody else in between. So I always tell people that know me, I tell them I'm seeing the same story unfold here slowly, but with different characters. And I don't want that to happen here, because it would be a very sad outcome. California is a great example of that. So having said that, historically I used to be an independent, and technically I'm still, very nuanced. If anybody reads my posts, you'll see that occasionally I get attacked from both the right and the left, and the reason being is because issues are complex. They're not black and white most of the time. But over the years I've seen a pattern, and the pattern is the left has evolved from being just individuals that disagree with you on certain policies, taxes, and so on and so forth, to pretty much harboring anti-American sentiment. And they're injecting it into younger generations. To hear this a young man over here, and I never thought I'd say young man, because I consider myself young man, so but I'm at that age, I guess. To say how large your chapter has become at Wayne State. After I'm done, I'm going to give you 2 phone numbers. Those are my kids at MSU. They're going left, and you got to bring them right, because they don't listen to me, apparently. Dad doesn't know much, so they're in that phase. But it's scary, because I'm going to give you a personal story that will explain why I'm being so vocal, even though I'm creating, unfortunately, a lot of individuals from immigrant communities that look at me differently now, even though historically I've been one of them, if you will. And that is the older generation of immigrants that came here from the Middle Eastern community. I want to focus on that for you, because Michigan has a large Middle Eastern community, specifically in the southeast region. And they're technically like the Hispanic community of Florida, where I lived for a few years. And I'll explain why it's important. The older community came here looking for a better life, like most immigrants came over the centuries. They wanted a better life. They left everything they know. They left every food they know, but they brought it with them to a certain degree. They left familiar grounds, and they came to a new land across oceans looking for a better life and opportunity. They worked hard, they were grateful, they learned the language, and they had children. And even though they were always proud of their heritage, like the Italians, like the Polish, like the Germans, like everybody else, they recognized that this land gave them something their home nations could not, which is opportunity and a better life. And they were grateful, and that's the key word, grateful. Fast forward a generation of 2, something is happening now. And it's not just in the Middle Eastern community, it's in younger Americans. And that is, people have taken this country for granted. And they've been brought up to believe everything about the history of this nation is wrong. It needs to be corrected. It needs to be erased. It needs to be broken down and rebuilt. And they have this mindset that anyone that speaks favorably about this country, who also understands that it doesn't have a perfect history, has to be brainwashed, has to be living on a different planet, has to be privileged, has to be so on and so forth. So you have these dynamics between a generation and another generation. There's this huge gap. And you can see it in the voter rolls most of the time, where Republicans, what I noticed as an independent, tend to be over 45 and 50 mostly, and Democrats tend to be on the younger side. This new generation mainly leans left. And so when I sit down and I talk to my boys, because I have these conversations, I have 3 in college, or 1 just graduated, I ask them, what is the most important topic for you? And you can correct me if I'm wrong. And today, it's the cost of living, which I'm glad that they're focusing on the cost of living now, because about 4 years ago, it was social justice mainly, right? And other things that I can't speak of because I'm a physician, but I think most can understand when it comes to like orientation and gender issues and things like that. So that's where we are today. But today, the main driving factor for all of them is the cost of living. They talk about if they're going to be able to get a job, if AI is going to replace them, they're going to be able to afford rent or let alone a mortgage and so on and so forth. So that's reassuring to me in a sense that they're now caring about the issues that are potentially fixable. And so it is up to the Republicans in the state of Michigan, in the state of Florida, and other states to figure out how to reach out to this younger generation. And the reason I say that is because whether we like it or not, they are the future of this country. A lot of them are misguided, a lot of them have been indoctrinated for years, but they are the future of the country. And they've been misled to believe that this country is not a good place or a fair place, and everything has to be pulled apart and reconstructed with ideas that have failed everywhere else around the world, including the places where their parents came from. So the messaging for the Republican Party, in my humble opinion, has to be clear and has to be empathetic with this younger generation. Because what I've witnessed while I'm on social media in the last few years is there's this condescending talk occasionally from Republicans towards millennials and Gen Z. And that's not how you get people to your side, by putting them down, by saying you specialized in your gender studies, degree, and too bad, There is this divide, and the left is exploiting it. Because they know for a fact on the left that they don't have real solutions. They know that. Secretly, I believe they know that. I've sat with them, and I hear about how Trump is a bad person, Trump is this, Trump is that, Trump is that. I let them ramble on in the social circles that I sit, and then when I'm done, I'm like, okay, now give me the answers and the solutions to the issues you care about. Well, Trump is bad. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to a solution. Trump's a racist. Got it. Let's move on. And this is really, they offer nothing. They offer nothing. So it's an emotional appeal to the younger generation. They know how to tell them, we hear you, we feel your pain, but they offer them nothing. The right, on the other hand, and it's never good to generalize, the right, in my opinion, they are somewhat dismissive. They understand what the issue is, but they're also not offering solid solutions. The president is doing everything in his power to try to fix the cost of living situation right now, and everybody that's grounded in reality understands it takes time. We're not asking for 10 years, we're asking, just give a few years and see if these policies make a difference, and then hold our feet to the fire. But these kids are struggling today. They're graduating, they're looking for jobs, they want to feel like they have a future. I read something on the way here that boggled my mind. The average retirement account for these young people is like, if they're 30 nowadays, is like $700. You know, that means they're not saving anything. That means they don't see a bright future. And then, obviously, the issue that a lot of people care about is, this is a very sexy topic, the national debt, right? So if you look at that graph, and I look at it often, and I say, okay, under many administrations, it's been going like that. So if that matters, that slope matters, why aren't more people panicking, right? And if it doesn't matter, why are they even keeping track of it? Why are they scaring us with it? And the truth is, it does matter, because nobody wants to talk about it, but when you spend more than you take in, ultimately you're going bankrupt, and you have to make cuts, and guess what? Social Security may get affected, Medicare may get affected. As a physician, I see with my patients from year to year over the last 20 years how much Medicare pays and how much it's been cutting, and I have to tell my patients, well, it doesn't cover this, and it doesn't cover this, and it doesn't cover that. So everybody's being impacted. So I'm not going to take much more of your time up, but I'm going to tell you that, in my humble opinion, as much as I like to see the president succeed, because if the president succeeds, America succeeds. That's right. Right? Yeah. I lived in a state where it was run by Republicans. When I arrived not too late after they won his second term, the governor of Florida, I saw what strong, competent, effective Republican leadership can do to a state. Even though the country was living under Joe Biden, I really felt I lived in a different country. I genuinely did. I'm not exaggerating, and I could list it off for you. So I believe no matter what happens with the president, we need to make sure we can mobilize and energize the younger generation in this state, which is what Ben is doing. Identify solutions, run candidates at the gubernatorial, at the state house, at the state senate, the attorney general, and in my humble opinion, the most important race is the secretary of state, because without secure elections, nothing else matters. We can run the best people and we're gonna lose, right? So we gotta secure our elections. And so it's important to have this mindset, and I hope everybody thinks like this. We can't think like, oh, the elections are rigged and this, and they're gonna steal it, therefore, no. We need to have a mindset that we're gonna win, and we're gonna turn this state around, and it's gonna be the best state in the nation, because it could be, and we're gonna make Michigan great again.
Yeah, that's right.
Am I supposed to take questions? Okay. Anybody have any questions? Let's go.
Thousands of people have asked me, how do you get the graphene oxide from the COVID vaccine out of your body? Besides taking clay and getting it out intestinally, there's no way to get it out interstitially. Have you come up with a method, or have you heard anything about getting the graphene oxide out of the tissue?
Honestly, I have not. I don't, I may shock some people. I never took the vaccine myself. It's actually the reason I moved to Florida. They put a deadline at my employer. I was a medical director at Beaumont and Royal Oak. They put a deadline as of October when Biden came into office. Just to clarify, I'm not anti-vaccines. I was anti-mandates.
Yeah.
I already had COVID, and a bad case of COVID when it first came out. I checked my antibodies, even though the FDA at the time said don't check your antibodies. I went and checked my titers. They were high. I didn't need the vaccine. They put in, he came into office, the auto pen president, and they put in the deadline as of October of 2021 to take the vaccine. And me personally, I said, okay, why would I take a vaccine I have no benefit from, just common science, and possible risk factor? There's nothing without risk. Everybody may take medications in it. There's nothing without risk. So I wasn't anti-vaccine, I was anti-mandate. And so they said, nope, by October you have to take, and I said, here's my 90-day notice, and I moved to Florida. As far as how you clean it out of your body, whether it's in your body, things like that, when you find out, let me know.
So getting back to the mandate, again, everybody I think would be happy that everybody gets to choose their own, if there's gonna be freedom of choice, it's your health care, I assume, right?
Yeah, I would hope so,
But
yeah.
because of the limitations, because I was a practicing dentist for 35 years, and I couldn't get, everything was reimbursed as a mercury filling, right, the silver fillings. So like you, we try to join together, let's talk after this and figure out how we can help these people.
Yeah.